through the week. This is First Take. Thank you so much for being with us. Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, Molly Karam here with you. Gentlemen.
Wow, that was fast.
Good morning. That was quick.
How y'all doing?
How are you? Welcome back.
I'm back in
How
the
you
house
doing?
like I promised.
All right. Uh-oh. I'm in trouble today, man.
You're always in trouble.
Yeah,
You just don't know it.
I don't know it, actually. That's a good
Ignorance
thought.
is bliss, right?
Doesn't change the result.
Yeah.
All right.
You guys ready to work?
Let's roll.
All right, let's do it. DeMarco Murray has questions as to how he fits in Chip Kelly's offense, which prompted the running back to have a talk about those concerns with team owner Jeffrey Lurie following Sunday's game, that according to our Ed Werder. It's not clear who initiated the conversation, which took place as the two sat next to each other on the team's chartered flight home. Skip, are you okay with this conversation happening on the team plane?
I guess I got to disqualify myself to your question. I just thought of this. I'm actually okay with it as a Cowboy fan, but if I'm an Eagles fan or somebody who cares about Philadelphia at all, like you do, I'm not okay with it at all. I thought it was a bad look for Jeffrey Lurie. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong scenario. Because, Stephen A., I have often criticized Jerry Jones for exactly this kind of thing, getting too close to a player, lending a sympathetic ear to a disgruntled player. So fair is fair. I thought Jeffrey Lurie was out of bounds here. To talk to a disgruntled player in full view of the rest of the team on a short flight from Providence back to Philadelphia after the biggest win of the year at Foxborough. As we know, the Eagles shocked the NFL world, and I'm pretty sure they shocked themselves by shocking the Patriots in Foxborough, shocking them badly. 35 straight unanswered points. So it's a feel-good moment. And if their team plane is like the team planes I used to ride off and on, the owner and the coaches sit in first class and the players sit in coach. So I don't know exactly which way it happened. Was DeMarco invited up, or did he request an audience up in first class? But he would have to, unless Lurie went back to his seat in coach, I guess that could have happened. Right. But one way or the other, in full view of his celebrating teammates, he's going to have to make the walk up into first class. Somebody's going to have to get up out of a seat in first class and let him sit next to the owner for an audience. And to me, this is a player who clearly had played only 14 snaps against New England compared to 35 snaps for Darren Sproles. Could not have been happy about it. Did have one late run in that game, which was significant, I thought, of 19 yards, just for the record. But this forced, on Monday, both Chip Kelly and Pat Shermer, the offensive coordinator, to respond. And their responses didn't exactly give DeMarco a vote of confidence, because I don't think they sounded very pleased about having to respond to this at this moment. And Chip Kelly did point out that for the season, DeMarco Murray has 418 snaps to Darren Sproles' 306, all the way down to Ryan Matthews, who has been hurt lately, 175 snaps. So he has gotten his snaps. He just hasn't been able to do very much with those snaps, averaging barely over 3 yards a carry, as we well know. So it looks like a meddling owner gave sympathetic ear to a very selfish player. That's what it comes off to me from a distance. And I got to believe the rest of the team could not have been real pleased about it, because I'm pretty sure the coaching staff wasn't either, because they look like they got undermined here.
Well, we're making the assumption that he had a conversation with the owner about his snaps, where he may have been having a conversation with the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, about his usage. And I'm not talking about quantity. I'm talking about how he's utilized. And I think that if that's the case, you have every right to express yourself on the team plane, on the same plane that coaches and other players are on. No, I definitely agree with you that that may not have been the most appropriate place to have that conversation, unless the owner summoned him up to first class, we're assuming, to have this conversation.
Sure.
If the owner, you know, I'm one of those guys that, I mean, I laugh at folks in corporate America, because I consider, even though football is football and it's a game, bottom line is when you're talking business, it's corporate America. I laugh at folks who are actually stupid enough to believe that you can just do what you want to do, say what you want to say, or choose not to say things when the boss ask you. You know, it's like, you know, throughout my career, I've always laughed when a boss is, you know, so nicely and sweetly asked me for something. But they're talking about, well, we want you to strongly consider. Well, you know, that's not a request. I mean, anybody, for those out there in corporate America working a 9 to 5 or whatever, when the boss asks you, it's really not a request. It's kind of like you need to do this. That's the way it works. So if Jeffrey Lurie summoned DeMarco Murray up and said, let's talk, then you know what? DeMarco Murray better talk. You know why? Because who's to say that you're going to have that time available?
Okay, that's
to
fine.
The way you have his ear at that point in time.
Quick point.
Sure.
Why wouldn't Jeffrey Lurie wait until Monday or Tuesday and summon him to his office?
My point, I don't know the answer to that question, honestly, but what I'm saying to you is that, to me, is the million-dollar question. Because, again, if DeMarco Murray insisted on talking to the owner in that particular venue, you have a point. If DeMarco Murray, however, was summoned to Jeffrey Lurie and asked to converse, then I have no problem with it. No player should have a problem with it. No coach should have a problem with it as it pertains to DeMarco Murray, because that's the guy who signed off on the $40 million with the $19 million guaranteed. Now, when we get into the particulars of what the conversation entails, then we're getting into, okay, how is he utilized? This massive offensive line in Dallas allowed him to run north and south, where he ran for 1,845 yards, had 392 carries, had 449 touches all told, saving Tony Romo and what have you. You're touching the ball and you're running effectively. Now you come to Philadelphia, and when you come to Philadelphia, Chip Kelly has you running east-west instead of north-south.
He does.
Now,
bad fit.
Not only is it a bad fit, but here's where the owner gets involved. If I'm DeMarco Murray, if I was told something different than what Chip Kelly's doing, I'm bringing you to Philadelphia. We want you here. We saw how you were utilized in Dallas. This is exactly what we want to do here. And then he changes course and deceives DeMarco Murray. Because if he's done that, it changes everything.
Okay, that's fine.
Right.
But probably, depending on where this conversation took place, if it's in first class, sitting just across the aisle would be one Chip Kelly. So you're going to have that conversation, and if it's initiated by the owner, you don't think that's undermining the authority and credibility of the head coach?
Possibly. You're absolutely right if it pertains to Jeffrey Lurie. But remember, for us, the conversation that we were engaging in, who talked to whom, who initiated the talks? Because let me tell you something right now. If you're DeMarco Murray and you believe that Chip Kelly has deceived you, I don't give a damn if he was a part of the conversation. I don't care if he was right next to you. The man lied to you. And as a result, your career appears to be going down the tubes. You're averaging 3.5 yards a carry, even though you get more carries than anybody else right now. Ryan Matthews is known to be, or believed to be better for this system.
And now
he's cleared to play. You know, and he practiced Tuesday. So not only do you come off a bad game with minimal, not just minimal production, but minimal workload. But now your biggest nemesis in terms of who could impede your workload is coming back from a 2-game absence due to injury. So you take all of these things into consideration. The only thing that makes it a bad look for DeMarco Murray is that any of this is going on in the throes of a victory. You just won a game, a big game against the New England Patriots. So for you to be having this conversation right now is clearly a bad thing, because this ain't the time for that. But again, if the owner initiated it, you don't get the owner's ear very often. Everybody ain't Jerry Jones. When you get it, you've got to take it and take advantage of it, because you may not have another chance. Okay,
now can we cut to the chase? This is my view, obviously from a Dallas perspective, as to why the Eagles opted to way overpay for DeMarco Murray in a way that Jerry Jones drew the line at and said, nope, I can't go there.
Why?
He had made an offer. They paid this man 5 years, $40 million with $21 million guaranteed.
Yeah, you're right. I said 19. You're right. It's
21 million guaranteed just to get him away from Dallas. I know they wanted to utilize him as best they could, but in their hearts of hearts, starting with Chip Kelly, who was the primary personnel decision maker in the offseason, he acquired that power. Am I right about that? So it's his call, even more than the owner's call. I'm sure he had to convince the owner, we need to get him away from the Dallas Cowboys. It's more valuable. The $21 million is paid more to get him away than to utilize him, because it would be clear to DeMarco he would not be a great fit for this offense.
I have a question.
He's a smart guy.
I have a question.
Okay.
That's what you're saying. You're saying that that's what happened.
That's my view of it.
All right. Well, let me ask you about a view that I've heard, and tell me what you think.
All right.
What I heard was Chip Kelly lost to Sean McCoy. He made some changes. I happen to know, because I was there, that Philadelphia was giving him some major heat for it. Sure. And as a result, he had to make some kind of splash.
Okay.
Because you lost out on the you let Deshaun Jackson go, and then he's going to let Jeremy Maclin, now LaShawn McCoy. So there was a lot of things going on, and as a result, it was like a makeup selection.
Okay.
And that's why Chip Kelly did what he did. So that, I was hearing that.
Okay.
Your thoughts?
And that could absolutely apply to this.
Okay.
So you get him away from Dallas, you make a PR splash in Philadelphia, but in the end, DeMarco sold out $21 million to play in an offense that clearly would not suit him. Again, they tried. He's square peg, round hole. It's a bad fit. You knew it. He's a north-south guy, and he needs some of the plays, not all of them, but some of the plays to be run from under center.
Yeah, but my problem with my problem with your verbiage is you're saying he sold out. Well, what I could say, he didn't want to be undersold by the Dallas Cowboys. He felt he was worth that.
Okay, that's fine.
So I'm saying, when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, for example, I'm of the belief, I'm of the belief firmly that even without Tony Romo, if nothing else had changed, the Dallas Cowboys would be in first place right now, because they'd be at least 2 to 3 games better.
Without Tony Romo?
I'm saying without Tony Romo, but listen to me. I'm just assuming the same running attack, the same offensive line, giving this man the workload. I believe that even without Tony Romo, I believe that the Dallas Cowboys, instead of 4-8, I think they would have been 6-6 right now. That's what I'm trying to say. Without those 8 games with Tony Romo, I believe that they would be 2 games better than they are now. As opposed to 1-7, I would say they would have been 3-5. Something like that.
Look, Darren
That's what I'm saying.
McFadden, I've never said Darren McFadden was DeMarco Murray.
I understand.
But he ain't bad either.
I ain't say that.
He's actually pretty good. I thought he was pretty good the other night in Washington.
You're saying
I know he fumbled twice.
You're saying he's pretty good, and I'm accusing you of looking at his talent in isolated pieces, as opposed to taking into account the totality of his body of work, cumulative effect. I'm talking about DeMarco Murray, week in, week out, having the game plan for this massive running attack that the Dallas Cowboys threw at you for 16 games last year. I am making the proclamation that if DeMarco Murray were running behind that offensive line, had stayed in Dallas, even without Tony Romo, he could have gotten you 2 games. That's all I'm saying. So if those 2 games would have had them at 6-6 instead of 4-8, would have had them, which would have had them in first place right now. Darren McFadden is good. He is talented. But he ain't what DeMarco Murray was last year.
They lost a little.
And that matters.
But it didn't cripple them.
I'm not saying
and I don't think it would matter 2 games worth.
I think 2 games. I think that's generous. I mean, 2 games.
Here's what you're overlooking.
I didn't say 6.
Who touched the ball by far the most last year in pro football? It was this guy, DeMarco Murray. So Jerry's looking at the actuarial tables that show you, history will tell you, he's going to get hurt, right? Maybe DeMarco should be thanking his lucky stars. He's being underutilized this year in Philly, so his body can heal up a little bit.
But why would he be happy with that if he feels he's being misused? It's one thing for you to not have. It's one thing for you to not have the number of carries. It's another thing entirely, Skip, for you to be for them to be running an entirely different scheme for him. When you got him, running east-west instead of north-south, that doesn't work to his advantage. That's the issue here. And so when you look at it from that perspective, yeah, you might have a workload, but I'm quite sure he expected it to dissipate, but not this dramatically.
Okay, I still say highly paid pawn in this. Get him away from Dallas, PR splash in Philadelphia, when Chip Kelly knew full well that Darren Sproles, or he already had Ryan Matthews, remember that they were better fits for what he does. Now he's got Kenyon Barner, his Oregon kid.
The rookie he gave it to fumble the ball in a key pivotal moment. A rookie instead of DeMarco Murray. Let me tell you something right now. If DeMarco Murray is smart, he would do, and if he was smart, he was having a conversation with Jeffrey Lurie about getting him the hell out of town. He could find a way to get back to Dallas, and they can rekindle what they had last year next season.
Are you sure this isn't a classic case of money can't buy happiness? That if DeMarco had taken a little less money in Dallas, I'm not sure what was on the table. We had some speculation.
A little less.
15 million guaranteed, 16 million guaranteed.
Listen,
what if you take that because you're happy in Dallas?
Both chose money over production, the way I look at it. Both the Cowboys and DeMarco.
All right.
That's right. That's right. That's a good point. I think if they would have came up to 16 million, you'd have a point. But I don't think they came up that far. And he deserved that after you ran him into the ground. 16 million.
All right. Well, DeMarco ranks 19th among NFL running backs in snaps this season. Last year, he was 3rd in the NFL, and the man he replaced, LaShawn McCoy, was 4th when he was with the